Hey, this is Eric and Stephanie with Productivity Advocates. Today, we are once again talking about productivity, and we're gonna go dive deep into what leaders have the opportunity to do to really produce productivity. Because a lot of leaders blame um, employees on them not being productive, but what about leaders? Are they accountable to it? So, first thing that comes to mind is as I've been in different organizations, is when you hear the word leadership, what are your expectations of your leaders? Mine has always been create a work environment that I can thrive in my own roles and responsibilities. I have a background in public emergency services. I was a firefighter EMT for 14 years. I was also a corrections officer for about 4.5 years at Draper Prison, and I saw a lot of interesting things happen within leadership there. The leader at the prison where I worked did not like religious people. Yes, there is a dominant religion in Utah. I am a part of it. At work, I did not talk about it. I just did my thing. I didn't, do certain things. I don't drink coffee. I don't swear. I just did my work. He did not like me because I simply was a member of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. And he was very vocal about it. And there's a lot of things that I wanted a certain office that sat empty in the mechanic shop that we worked in because I had managed inmates and helped teach them a trade at the prison. And it just sat empty. And I was like, is there any way that I could use that office? It was right next to the other office, had windows, everything. No, absolutely not. He would not let me do it. And he regularly would tell people it's because he's a member of a church, a certain church. So that leader obviously, just held his biases because of what religion I was a part of. There's other leadership things within um, emergency services that you should be very open uh, with your employees as far as taking care of them and answering questions. I had another leader, it was almost impossible if we were not on a scene to try and get a hold of him to ask questions, ask simple questions. It was extremely difficult. So communication is like a number one thing. How do you communicate? Through your body language, through listening to others, to, you know, body language is a massive thing. But if you don't take accountability as a leader to direct the work environment, then you're the one that is at fault for a productivity or a lack of productivity. And it's quite interesting to watch. And there's been a lot of, I'm an observer. I love to watch people and just see the good in them. I love to pick out the good in it. I watch sports to watch each individual and how they're doing and watching the the plays that they make. It's fun to just sit there and watch them. And I like watching kids play sports because it's the same thing. They do something simple. We worked with a little girl when we were coaching once, and she was small in stature. She did not have a lot of muscle. We worked with her all summer to be able to hit a coach pitch at the time. She couldn't do it. She couldn't do it. And one day she got a hold of one. And she was so excited. That was worth it. All the work, all the training that we were able to help her with for that one hit because she was so excited about it. Why can't leaders be like that and create the right environment to be able to really help their teams thrive? And guess what? In turn, it produces productivity, which in turn produces profits. Such a simple concept, but one thing gets in the way, pride. A lot of pride. and honestly, a lot of money. If somebody is driven by money as a leader, their true colors will shine, that they're just about the money and not about the relationships or building the organization to really thrive for their customers, internal customers, employees, as well as their external customers. And once you work on their internal customer service, it will translate out to outside customer service. So let's talk about accountability in the workplace. Steph, do you have anything to say about accountability in the workplace?
I mean, kind of like it's not just the team. Everyone has to have accountability. If you make a mistake, you need to own up to it. If it's a team project that you're doing, it's not just the team's fault, it's everyone's fault. Everyone could be doing other things better.
Absolutely. And the thing is what's wrong with taking accountability? You're a human being, and being human, you're going to make mistakes. Perfectionism is a huge thing. And if you think that you can be perfect, guess what? You're wrong. You can't. I mean, as a parent, it was funny because we owned a mechanic shop, have for years. I had my son helping me one day. He was he was probably around 10, maybe 8 to 10 years old. And he was so excited to help me. And I just did an oil change and I had a funnel and I was going to just put oil into the engine. Well, all of a sudden I see him walking over there, or I turned my back. And when I turned back around, he was putting washer fluid into the engine. And I'm like, oh, that doesn't go there. And I blew up. I'm like, you don't do that. You should. How is an 8 to 10 year old supposed to know what fluid's going where? He knows that it was washer fluid, but I just had a funnel there, so he went to put it in. And I lit him up and just started yelling and whatnot. And I felt horrible after. I do, because my older son's like, Dad, how does he expect to know that? And he started protecting my younger son. And was it that bad of a deal? No, I flushed the engine out and I was able to drain it out, and there was no harm done. Um, if you look at the grand scheme of things, there was none. But my reaction to what he did was awful. All he was trying to do was help me. And there's multiple stories about how people react in the situation. And as we train new employees at the mechanic shop, I help them to understand this is a learning process. If they're willing to learn, then I will be patient with them and I will teach them. But some people won't learn. We have a mechanic once that he would get angry at cars, and his anger would translate into his work. He broke more bolts than anybody, because instead of stepping back for just a couple minutes, realizing that he's starting to get angry, he would go harder and then he'd break bolts. And broken bolts are horrible to get out. I've spent hours and upon hours getting broken bolts out. And I've told him, you have the leeway to step back, because being a mechanic is sometimes frustrating. You want something to come out and it doesn't. You have to step away, or guess what? The car will win, because it will break bolts, it will break your knuckles, it will win. It's an object that you have to be patient with. And eventually that he didn't get it, and he wasn't the right fit for being a mechanic, and he knew it. And so he ended up quitting, because I just don't have the temperament for it and I can't control it. But in my situation, I could have got mad at him a lot. But I've learned that, in helping people to thrive in the workplace, there's no need for fear, intimidation. You shouldn't ever have that you are creating fear in the workplace. And a lot of people love to intimidate, and it's like, why? What's the purpose of it in the workplace? There is no purpose for fear and intimidation. and anger in the workplace. I do not believe it. If somebody wants to tell me otherwise, that there is, great, let's talk. Because I'd love to see the reasoning behind using fear and intimidation to motivate your employees. So, um, as a leader, how do you think that you can be more believable that you're actually willing to create the workplace to thrive? I interviewed a company once, and I've told this story before, but I'm going to tell it again because it's a huge one. These people were not accountable and believable. They had somebody come in, a consultant, that had a lot of good ideas, and they realized that the leadership needed to empower their employees more and to not micromanage and to be able to trust what they do. Because honestly, as a driver of a car, it would be absolutely 100% impossible for you to power the car, be a transmission, and make that car go down the road. You're just simply there to start the car, hit the accelerator, hit the brake when needed, turn the steering wheel, and use your indicators. You're not there to produce the power. And I don't understand why leadership thinks that they need to do that. They hire people for specific reasons. Let them do their jobs and just create the environment that they can thrive and move forward. But this organization took this consultant's ideas and said, you need to put empowerment all over the walls and put all these positive signs. And, we really take care of you in this place. They had all sorts of nice words. When I interviewed the employees, after after the leadership put up all the signs, they actually started micromanaging more and started being in their face more and had higher expectations of them, but gave them less trust. And the company is just slowly dying. And that was probably 5, 6 years ago that I interviewed that company. And last year, I believe it was, they laid off 1,500 employees. And so, did it work? Obviously not. And have I talked to them since? No. I'm just watching from the outside, and I still have friends that work there, and they tell me all the time that it's just a sinking ship. And it was a huge, huge company, worldwide company. So you have to be believable. If you're going to say something, follow up with it, you know? And I've got other examples of positive work environment that's the one that I've interviewed that has been the most productive environment that I've interviewed and studied. They are very hands-on with their employees. They interview every one of their employees every quarter to make sure that they are in the uh, right position in the company, that they don't have any concerns, and they truly listen to them. And they are above 90% in their productivity rate, and it's proven. And the employees concur with um, with the leadership. So,
And
but
sorry,
go ahead.
with believability in the workplace, you're going to inspire and produce commitment with your team. They're going to feel safe and they're going to innovate and do greater things than just going through the motions with their job. They're going to enjoy their job and do
Yep.
better.
Absolutely. And if they have fear and they have intimidation in their mind, guess what? That's going to control them, and that's going to help them to be uh, have fight or flight. When a leader walk in the room and they want them to have a productive meeting, if they are if the employees are fearful or intimidated, well, their minds cannot be creative. They're more worried about getting out of that meeting. And I mean, think about that times that you've been around somebody that's intense. As a firefighter EMT, I've been on a lot of intense situations with a lot of intense emergency workers. And I'm not that way because it's not uh, productive at all on an emergency scene to be intense. you have to de-escalate the situation as much as you can. Yes, it is an emergency situation. You have to get things done, but at the same time, your intensity level can go way down and it helps the scene. There was a scene that I was on once that one patient was had a major head trauma. The other one did have a head trauma, but he was coherent, while the other one was not. And so I was assessing the one patient and getting ready to transport him while I was assessing the other one. I just kept calm, but he had also a major head wound, but he was conscious and he was there and he's alert. The other one wasn't. So I was taking one care of one at the other, but when I saw the wound on the other one, I could have reacted and I didn't. I'm just like, well, we're gonna have to transport you. And he's just nodded, okay. It's like, yeah, I could have gotten super intense, but you just don't. It's intensity. There's a time and place to get intense, and that's when somebody is in danger, and then the intensity needs to stop. Otherwise, intensity really doesn't need to be there unless you're trying to, you know, run a company in a way that's not going to help. So, emotions drive productivity is one of the main things that we need to talk about because we had something happen yesterday in Happy Valley that, there was a shooting and that took away all productivity in our work environment yesterday because people were concerned. And um, we got to stop and talk about that. That is a major event that happened the day before 9/11. I was, I'm old enough that I remember well what happened 24 years ago on 9/11 and how it shut the country down. Are you creating unreal expectations for your employees if something like that happens that's close to home and you don't take the time to let them process that? That's awful if you don't. And it's unfeeling, that's unhuman because that's something you know, it needs to take you need to take the time to process that. And there's some things at work that happen that's like you need to take the time and it's okay. And if you continue to push people beyond their limits, that's gonna cause people for burnout and to not care. I talked to a employee the other day that they're like, I do my minimal job. I could do so much more, but how our leader uh, treats us is a completely different game. I don't want to do anything more for them. I really don't. My potential to be better, oh, 100%. Well, that's disengagement because of a leader, and the employee doesn't want to do it. They're doing the job that's satisfactory to the leader, but they're really not doing what their full opportunity to do is. So, but emotions are a big thing, and you need to take account for it. What do you have an example of a coach or a leader in your life that just really hit home with you?
Are you talking about in a good way or a negative way?
Both.
Both.
Yeah, we're not going to name names by any means,
Yeah.
but you think about it, and there's always been some type of example of somebody that could be in a leadership position that could really have a positive effect or a negative.
Yeah. Well, for good, I had a volleyball coach when I was in high school, and there were times where she was a friend when it was necessary, and there were times where she was a coach and that was pushing us. And she kind of was, when I think of coach, she's the epitome of that. She made us want to be better, and she also knew that there were times that maybe we didn't need to be pushed and we just needed a friend or just someone to talk to or just a moment of to be in ourselves and come back into our minds kind of thing.
Yeah. We're not, as humans, we're not machines. I had a customer come in one day and it was kind of a performance car and I drove it and drove it. I could not get it to overheat. And he's like, yeah, it's overheating. I checked all the things that I was supposed to. And so I called him. I was like, what are you doing to overheat it? Well, you got to go drive it really hard for a good half hour. I'm like, I don't drive people's cars really hard. He's like, no, like you got to go race it up the canyon and then it'll overheat. I'm like, it's a machine. You can only push a machine so far until I was like, I'm sorry, but you would have to do all these things. If you're going to push that car to the limits like that all the time and have those expectations, we've got to do a bigger radiator. We got to do a performance water pump. We've got to do this, that. How often are you going to be driving this car on the street that way? Well, you know, it's a performance car. I'm like, yeah, do you want to put thousands of dollars into it to make it so it performs better? Well, no. Then that's unreal expectations. Human beings, we are not machines. We are not just numbers. We are human beings that have emotions, that have all sorts of things on our minds. And it's a part of being human. And if leaders don't understand that and think that we're just machines, I pay you a good wage to do what you do. Yes, and you need to create the environment that I can do that. If they don't do that, and then how are we supposed to fulfill our responsibilities if they don't create the right environment for us to do it and not treat us like machines or like numbers? It's not fair, and that's what they expect. I pay you. Well, if you pay us a certain wage and you create the right work environment, then people will produce. You pay us a certain wage and don't create the right environment, then that's unreal expectations. So it's interesting that leaders don't listen. Listen with looking at the whole situation and listen to their employees. I mean, do you think a leader that's intimidating anger as they walk in the room, do they like to see people turn their heads down, look away, pretend to start writing something? Those are all signs that those people that they just came into a room don't have respect because as if you have fear and intimidation, people aren't going to respect that. They're going to be more worried about how they're going to get out of that situation. True? It's totally true. And so it's there's some people that, you know, I don't want to be around. And it's sad, but they're intense. And it's sometimes in a supermarket, sometimes in the work environment. It's some customers. We've had to fire customers before because they create an unrealistic um, situation, and we cannot satisfy what they need. I had a customer a few months ago come in and say, I need my car done today. Well, this certain car is a classic car, and I'll only work on them after hours. I told the customer that, and they flat out said, I need you to stop working on everybody else's cars and just work on mine. I said, no, you can tow your car out because it wasn't running at the time. You can tow it and you can take it to another shop that is willing to do that for you. But I set the expectations up front. I was very clear that I will only work on it after hours as I have time. I would never promise him anything beyond that. And as soon as I set those expectations, he actually did very well and was been very patient. And hopefully the car gets delivered today. And it's been here for 6 months, but it had well over 80 hours of doing a lot of things that I was not expecting to do. And now, since I set that precedence that I won't be talked like that to, he, has calm down and it's good. But you also have to set the boundaries. And if you if you as a leader don't allow your employees to be able to help talk to you and be able to communicate with you and have you listen, how do you expect them to thrive in the workplace if you're not approachable and you don't listen? You don't look at all the different aspects that you have to. What work environment would ever require you to have fear, intimidation, and anger? Can you think of a job that that would help them thrive?
No, you do the complete opposite. It's counterproductive.
Absolutely. And so but they think, nope, I've got to have this certain image and I've got to have this and that. No, you really don't. You just have to be kind. Simply be kind and create the work environment. And leaders at the same time, they have to set boundaries and they can't be taken advantage of by employees. There's a lot of employees out there that love to get the credit for something somebody else does. They love to be in the limelight. They love to be boisterous and loud and do everything. Are those a productive worker? No. That's where the leadership needs to listen and look at who actually does the work as well and hold those people accountable. You know, there's so much to a workplace because you're dealing with a human element, which a human element's awesome. I love seeing people thrive in the workplace, just like we talked about earlier. But some people, it's hard because they all they want is the outcome. They want the money. They want the productivity without fueling their team. Could you imagine driving a car and say, you know what, I need you to get me this next 100 miles, but I'm only going to give you $5 worth of gas. And then you have to get me to that thing. They're not going to do that. That car's going to, nope, not today, sir, you know, and you have to fuel it to be able to get the productivity out of your car and transport you from one location to another. Why don't leaders get that? That they just need to simply fuel their team, maintain them, not have unreal expectations, and guess what? That'll produce productivity. They'll make you more money, but it'll satisfy your customers, it'll satisfy your employees. There's so much benefit to just being accountable for understanding that you create the culture, you create the opportunity to drive your organization. You have all the information to do so. You have all the gauges, everything. Don't expect your employees to do something that they aren't, you know, aren't supposed to. So that's kind of a fun podcast, honestly. And it just, there's so much good that leaders could do to create the work environment for better mental health. And in turn, it'll turn out more profit just by taking care of employees. Simple concept. Not a lot of people execute it. So, is there anything else that you want to add, Stephanie?
Just on the believability and accountability, it takes small actions. It doesn't take big speeches or big, profound actions. Everyday small actions.
Absolutely. And those small actions are, how many times have you heard people say they appreciate other people or they see something small that somebody did and said, you know what? That was a great job. Way to think about that, you know? And so many people don't like to give compliments. And it's kind of interesting why not, because it takes a little bit of effort and you have to look at the whole situation. But just simply say, you did a good job. You're doing a good job because we beat ourselves up enough. Why should we have others beat us up too? You know, just see the good in others. I want. I mean, that's the biggest goal of productivity advocates. I'll put it out there and say, I want help. I want to help people with mental health in the workplace. If leaders would understand, if they build the mental health, they would build productivity, and they'd have the opportunity to create a workplace that people want to be there and want to come and feel safe and to thrive in their own skills and abilities. Productivity advocates is honestly all built around that concept. And in turn, you'll get profits. In turn, you'll have better customer internal and external customer service. All these things are huge benefits about building the right work environment to really build mental health within it. And that's what I'm truly passionate about. And in turn, you'll receive a huge reward by helping people be better. So on that, I think we're good. Thanks for your time, Stephanie, and we will go from there.